This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to andBeyond in Ngala, where we have actually just stopped to listen to some lions roaring. It sounds like coming from further southeast of us. And as you can see from the weather, quite dismal. Won't be too much of a sunrise. I don't really think it's getting too hot today either. Probably about 22 degrees Celsius, but at the moment still rather cold. So welcome aboard to your very own safari, live from Africa. Righty, so welcome to andBeyond in Ngala. My name is Rowan. Behind the camera I've got Morgan. Oh, there is actually a lovely sunrise behind us. So we're just going to stop here for a little while, actually appreciate the sunrise and listen a bit more. There was some lion audio coming from further south. I think Barney is actually checking in that area. Oh wow, that is absolutely stunning. But from here, we might head into the west. Go see if the rest of the Birmingham Pride is back. Nice little power line. And a beautiful natural shot. But yeah, what a lovely morning. Nice to see the sun again. Missed it completely yesterday. Been rather cold. I think our plan for the morning would be to go into the west. Let's see if the rest of the Birmingham Pride with the rice males and the babies have come back. And yeah, just take it from there. It's always so nice just to stop and listen in the mornings. All the birds are waking up. And especially just to appreciate a winter sunrise. Also sound like there's some elephants just to our left. You can hear branches breaking every now and then. James is commenting the Ngala female or wild dogs this morning would be great. James, to be honest, anything would be great. Especially on a beautiful morning like this. Okay, so I think let's head further west. Let's try for that. There's a pack of wild dogs that are denning just north of Ngala, actually on Shinzela area. And I'm not too far, I'm actually not too sure how far north of our property the den would be. But it seems if they do hunt south, they come onto Ngala and they actually go to an area called Alfred Dam. So it might actually be just a great start. Goes straight there. It will take us a while, which is fine. We are driving slowly this morning since it's not too warm just yet. Actually, no, it's not warming up the whole day. This kind of sucks. So Barney is in the south, he's looking for the white lions. Dan and Rule on the east are looking for Ngala female. Barry's driving out of Safari Lodge. He is going west looking for the pride, so he'll be giving us a hand. And then I don't think the other rangers are out yet. What tends to happen to guests in winter, even though the wake-up call is at 5:30 and we plan to leave at 6, it is rather cold, so we don't. Guys, so we're just going to head further west, see whatever we can find. Wish me luck. We'll just be driving slowly.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another magnificent sunrise here on the northern parts of andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. And you may have seen the sun rising there at Ngala, and we've got quite a spectacular one ourselves. And welcome, everyone. My name is Wade, and I'm joined this morning by Glenn behind the camera. And we've just headed out here to the northern grasslands. Nice, cold morning, bit of mist on the horizon, and behind us quite a thick bank of mist, actually. And headed out here just to have a sort of look around and enjoy the view. And literally about 2 minutes before we stopped here and went live, we had the sounds of some lions roaring just off to our northern section here, which is amazing. So as we get going now, we're going to move up there. We first heard the one male calling, may have been even the same male that we saw yesterday. And he was answered shortly after by what sounds like the rest of the pride. So we're going to spend the morning now moving up through these grasslands, trying to hear if we can find where we're going to look into that area and see if we can spot these lions. I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity for us. And with the sunrise that we've got going on here behind us, I don't think there's a better way to spend the morning. Look at that. It's amazing just how quickly the sun rises. All right, so we're going to move along here now. Look at this. Let's start driving. I want to start moving up there because we heard those lions not far from this position. And as we know from lion behavior, they are usually more active early in the morning. And it was really cool to hear the pride calling like that. The males will often call to advertise dominance and communicate with each other as well. And we could hear from the lions roaring that the two males weren't close to each other. Well, they were close, but they weren't near each other because the one called from quite a bit further away. But to hear the rest of the pride calling in response as well, that's pretty cool. Nice early morning. Marie, you're not wrong there. It's always worth getting up early just to come out here and see the sunrise in the open grasslands. There's quite a few spots here that we always like to watch the sunrise from, and this is definitely one of them. It is often a tough one to get going early, especially now in these winter mornings, to get out here early enough to watch a sunrise, because it is really cold with the wind chill factor. If you stop, it's not too bad, but it is always worth it once you get out here and you watch that sun coming up. We're not too far. It's always tough to hear and to judge distance with those lions roaring. They definitely sounded pretty close. They may be out in this grassland, this section of the grassland. There's a little band of woodland up ahead of us, and it sounded like it was coming from over there. So as we're driving along here, we need to keep a careful lookout. We may get into the area, drive around. I'm going to be looking for tracks on the road. And we can expect from their behavior that as the sun's just come up now, they're clearly active or have been active. Sun's peeking out nicely. You can imagine after a cold night, it'll be quite nice to sun themselves out somewhere. And especially if the whole pride is together, it's quite likely that we might get them out somewhere enjoying the sunrise. Because I know while we were sitting still and waiting to greet all of you, it was quite nice to have that sun hitting us, just warming us up after the drive. So for those viewers that were with us yesterday afternoon, we did spend a little bit of time with one of the male lions. He wasn't doing too much on World Lion Day, fast asleep, laying in a thicket, and we could just see a small portion of him. But we had known that there was the rest of the pride in the area. They had been seen in the morning, and they were on a zebra carcass, but by the time we got there yesterday afternoon, they'd already finished. We found the carcass, but there was nothing at it. So it'll be interesting to see where they've gone since then. So Glenn and I are going to spend this next bit trying to see if we can find these lions, because how amazing would it be to watch lions this morning live from Phinda.
So we are slowly heading north. We're going to cross the Tswalu River just here and then start heading west. So we'll quickly check an area called Cheetah Flats, big clearing. Now if the Ross males are anywhere in this area, especially being this cold, they might just stop in Cheetah Flats to roar and then listen if other lions are roaring. Because the line we heard earlier, it sounds like it's coming from Manuleti's side, so quite likely it is the red road male He's quite a dominant figure in Manuleti now. He is actually one of the Birmingham, well, he used to be part of the Birmingham Pride, so he'll be the brother of the two lionesses that has the two newest cubs now. One of those lionesses would be the mom of the white male. But no fresh trucks crossing over here. Can't see any animal movement in the riverbed itself. There's a rose eagle owl that flew off. Actually very likely to find a rose eagle owl here any time of the year. There's a mating pair, and then the youngster is usually the chirpy one. He'll just sit on a branch and scream for his mom to feed him. Rather cute. More power lines. Seems like that's the theme for the morning. One of those things. We had one of these power lines fall over not too long ago. It got pushed over by an animal. And thank you, Eskom, for coming to fix it. So we're not too far off from this clearing. We'll actually stop for a while. Just sit and listen again, see if we can hear anything.
It was a beautiful sunrise this morning with these flat clouds and a little gap, very orange and deep and still. Finally, after 24 hours of what basically was a hurricane, it has calmed down, and love to see what today brings us. It's chilly, but very calm. Hi everyone, my name is Mike Anderson, behind the camera is Gert, and this is Ecotraining's Pridelands Conservancy, where we are at, on the dam wall of Ndlovu Dam, close to the Ecotraining camp, where last night a herd of about 50 or 60 buffaloes came down to drink and then disappeared off yonder. And we're going to try and see if we can find said buffaloes this morning and do a bit of a tracking exercise. Don't know how far they would have gone. Very water-dependent animals, and the water is becoming very scarce. So hopefully we will have good luck this morning at finding them somewhere not so far away. But as you know, the bush can be quite, how can I say, cryptic at times. So we might follow those buffaloes in circles until we realize that they actually grew wings and flew somewhere else. But hopefully we'll get lucky. That's our plan. And then there's also been 2 male lions on a giraffe carcass just to the south. Shantae, I'm glad you're enjoying this golden sky. Hopefully we'll get more beautiful images throughout the day when these clouds start to clear and the sky can become that gorgeous blue that we know so well on these winter days. And then maybe if those buffaloes are moving south, they might have come into contact with those 2 male lions that were feeding on a giraffe somewhere south of us. And things could get real interesting. It's always nice to follow animals' tracks, and decipher what they've been up to. Especially now that it's winter and tracking becomes a lot easier. A lot less grass, the pathways are more open. And after the incredible wind we've had over the last 24 hours, it'll be nice to see tracks again. Everything would have been scoured clean, so any tracks we do see we know must be fairly fresh from early last night up till this morning. So everything else was literally swept clean. You can hear the birds calling. There's common scimitar-bills, southern yellow-billed hornbills, Well, while we are going to try and start our buffalo exploration, it sounds like Phinda has found their first cats for the day.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. We are incredibly lucky this morning, and almost exactly where we thought we had heard the lions calling from is where we found them. And look at this sight with this golden light from the first sunrise. We're the first vehicle out here. We could not be luckier. And we have found 2 lions by the looks of things. There's the big male laying down there and 1 lioness next to him. For those of you that watched last night or yesterday afternoon, this male is that same male we saw last night. And his brother's not too far away because we also heard him calling, but he was a bit further to the left-hand side, to the west. So it will be interesting to see if we spend a bit of time here. If they decide to meet up, because they're not far away from each other, or at least they didn't sound far away. But this male's just out here enjoying the morning sun, like we thought he might be, and he's joined by 1 lioness. And it's quite interesting because I haven't seen the rest of the pride around, but I'm relatively sure this is one of the members of the pride that is in this territory. And with them being out here together, they may well be mating this time. Got a comment from Rosemary, and you couldn't be more right. You never know what you're going to find out on a morning game drive, or on any game drive for that matter. And sometimes you get to appreciate the little things, and sometimes you head out to the open grasslands and you find 2 lions. And the way we found them was by hearing them, which was super fortunate of us. And if we had been driving, there would be no way we would have even heard them at all over the sound of the engine, because they were a little bit further off. It's only by stopping to enjoy the sunrise that we actually heard them. So, really useful tool. Best of both worlds as well. Not only do you get to stop and enjoy and listen and appreciate what's around you, but you also get to hear potential great sightings like this one. As soon as we got here, we watched them for a little bit, and the male was still contact calling softly. He's now since just laid down a bit, put his head down, but it may be worth waiting here for a while, because if he gets a little bit active again, it's still very early. You know, he called to the other male, the male responded. He may yet call again. How amazing would that be? That's not something you get to see every day. And it would be interesting to see, once they move around, what's happening between the 2 of these lions. I'm pretty sure that they're mating here at the moment, which is also an exciting thing, because it may mean that in a few months' time we get a few more cubs in this area. I have a question from Luigi, and in essence, no, Luigi, it's really tough to identify based on calls. Definitely not that sharp to recognize the sound of their roars. What we would do there is we would just go off of the lions or pride's known territory. So if you hear lions calling from a certain area, we automatically assume it's the pride that is within that area, because we know from their behavior that lions are extremely territorial. Not only the males, also the females as well. So this female here on the right-hand side, when she's with the pride, she would also be sort of defending that territory against other prides, because bear in mind, when they moving through an area and hunting, that's their source of food. If another pride had to come through, that threatens their food source. So it's not often that we hear the females vocalizing. They tend to roar more in response to the males every now and then. But the males are far more vocal. They'd be calling, depending on where you are and depending which lines you're looking at. These two males that we have here in the north of the reserve, they are extremely vocal and fond of their own voices. So we hear them really often, which is an amazing thing. And almost every evening, if you're in that same area, you'll hear them calling at some stage. Oh, look at that. A guy sitting up. Still nice and early in the morning. Look at that nice golden light on his face. It really is a magnificent sight. And as we're sitting here, all around us, there's some morning sounds. Zebras. Waikisha, you're quite right. He is a big, dominant male lion, and he's got an incredibly impressive mane. He is also massive. This is one of the biggest lions. He's definitely the biggest lion on Phinda, and his brother's not far behind. But that nice, thick mane is really an intimidating sight if you come across him, which is part of its purpose. And a real nice protection for if he gets into a fight. This time of year must be a really nice thing to have. I definitely could have done with a nice mane like that driving out here this morning. But I can imagine in summer it must get quite tough in the heat and humidity. But he doesn't seem too bothered, eh? Look how the mist is just puffing carefully, slowly out his mouth this morning, showing you just how cold it is. We're going to watch him for a bit, and let's see if he starts moving around in a little while.
The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for their environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our earth.
For me, the best part about being a guide is being able to live out in Africa's wild places and being able to share that with people. Of all the challenges, for me, the one that I'm probably the most comfortable with is the game drive. I think that's what I do most days, so that would probably be what I feel like I'd do the best at. It's like someone's put little Lego blocks up there and made this perfect little sort of statue, and there's another one further along as we drive. One of the challenges I'm the most nervous about would probably be shooting. I think on the day there's always quite a bit of pressure and intimidation, always associated with it, but I guess we'll see how it goes. I hope I'll win this competition, but if I don't, it's still been an experience of a lifetime, and I've learned a lot and met a lot of really, really cool people.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Okay, so we are finally in the West, and we're just actually giggling because there was some zebra running in front of us, and it's always been one of my rules, it's don't drive behind zebra when they're running in front of you. They just fart so much, and literally that's all they did for about 50 meters. So yeah, we're awake now, I can tell you that. Not too far away from Alfred Dam. What we'll do is not go straight there, we'll actually do a bit of a loop and then approach from the southern side rather than just coming from the east, just so we can check more areas. So far it sounds like Barry is checking the entire boundary to see if this pride has come inside. Barney's not giving us an update, so I don't think he's found anything yet. Rule has dropped a tracker, Ernest, and they are tracking leopards. So it could be the Ngala female, it could be the Ngala female's daughter. It would be in the same area. Now there is a leopard I haven't seen in a long time either. But she grew up shy, weirdly enough. Although I guess Ngala female's actually rather good at hiding as well. Just now with the cubs, we're seeing her more and more often, which is nice. Safari Catty asking if we have ever followed the track of an animal to find a completely different animal. So I'm not sure if you're asking whether I followed, say, Ngala female's tracks, or I thought it was Ngala female and then found Cheetah female, which would both be female leopards, or if I've tried tracking a buffalo and then come across a lion. So we know what the tracks look like, just to get that out of the way. But it has happened, yes, it's happened where we were actually tracking a leopard and then stumbled upon a pride of lions. Not because we mistook the leopard's track for lion tracks or mistook the lion tracks for leopard tracks. It's not anything like that. It just so happened that where this leopard walked, there was a pride of lions there as well, which was quite fun. You know, a nice little surprise. Oh, we found the zebra again. Luckily this time they're not on the road, so they're not going to be running in front of Morgan and myself. There are quite a lot of them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I saw Dazzle coming together. So I always feel quite sorry for them during winter time. Imagine you had to eat dried grass for 6 months of your life. There's no excitement of going for Indian food, Mexican food, and having a braai, some chili sauce with it. Just dried grass every single day. Now they are coming onto the road. Well, hopefully they cross instead of walking down. Although with animals, often they'll choose to walk on the road because it's the path of least resistance. Just depends where they're going. Kind of like the way they bob their head when they walk. Hello. No, they're just crossing. Such a poser, such a poser. Of course you're going to stop right in the middle of the road. Legend. Just wait for the others to come through. Might take a little while longer. All of them in rather good condition. You can see all their manes are standing straight up. Don't see it too often where it's drooping, but when it does, it means the animal is losing condition. They'd be a bit sick. So funny, not a single oxpecker on them. They've got fork-tailed drongos following them, but not really oxpeckers at all. Although I guess this time of year there are less ticks around. Okay, so while we go and look for our lines, we're going to send you back over to Wade, who's already found his.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda, everyone. We're still here with these two lions, just enjoying the view. The male had his head up, looking around, and we did hear some alarm calls faintly in the distance off to the left of the screen, and he seemed quite interested looking around that side. One of the other game drives out this morning had some tracks of what looked like the rest of the pride heading out to that area, so I wonder if he wasn't looking off at something that was potentially looking at the rest of the pride. Maybe worth going there a bit later to check it out. But look how now he's got his head up, looking around. They are such majestic animals. Ooh, nice when he shifts to get that sun on him. And back down. Look at the size of that belly. He does not look very hungry to me. Yesterday when we saw him, it was quite a tough view, but he was panting quite heavily. Oh, look at that big yawn. So I think he's had quite a big meal in the last day or so, and while the belly has gone down a bit, still fat as can be. Good question coming in from Paul this morning, and Paul, this is the best way that they do it. Much like a lot of the other cats, even the cheetah would be here, sitting out on a sort of raised mound in an open area really helps them a lot. And this pride in particular spends a lot of time here hunting in these open grasslands. And you can see from this vantage point, they've got a massive view all the way around. Left, straight behind them, to the right-hand side of us over here, there's actually quite a nice little water hole, and really, really popular spot because this is one of the main sources of water in the region. So by sitting here, they can be fairly sure that a lot of antelope and animals will need to move through here, not only to feed out in these grasslands, but also to come and drink. So a lot of the times they don't even have to go looking for the food. Just by sitting in a spot like this, they'll spot it coming to them, because whether the antelope is coming for food or water, they've got no choice but to come through here. When they're out moving through the woodlands and the thickets and the forests, it's slightly different hunting tactics. You'll often see that they follow prominent roads or game paths. As they're walking along, they'll use that to sort of move between areas, but when they move in through the trees, if they see something, then they'll dip into the trees and try and stalk it. Otherwise, they'll even walk through the woodlands and the thickets and shrubs, and they'll just sort of zigzag up and down. And as they surprise something, they'll just quickly pounce on it. But out here, it tends to be a far more coordinated thing. If this lioness, for example, had to spot a good opportunity now from here, she may even stalk and chase it. Being with the male here, he may help her, he may not. She may have to just do the work herself. So far we haven't seen them mating, but we've only been here a short period. And, oh, can you all hear that? There's a male lion calling in the distance. Wow. That is amazing. There's a second lion calling as well. I wonder if this male will respond. Here we go. This is incredible. Wow. It does not get any better than that. I hope you could all hear that clearly. That was absolutely incredible. Such a rare thing to see, and so lucky to get it nice and early this morning, coming to you live from andBeyond Phinda. What an incredible sound. When you're sitting here, and we are maybe 20 meters away from these lions, it is just the most humbling experience. That roar, while loud, it doesn't hurt the ears, but it is such a powerful sound. It literally makes the vehicle vibrate, and it's just unbelievable to hear. The lioness is now laying flat. Really cool to hear her calling as well. But look at this male. It sounded like his brother was out in the grassland, not too far from here. And there was a call of one other lion as well. Maybe the lioness with the cubs that has been moving around this area. At the moment, the pride seems to have fractured a little bit, with them having split up. But in total, this pride, which we often refer to as the North Pride, has 5 lionesses, and of those 5, one has 3 cubs at the moment. Oh, back down for a quick nap. It takes a lot of effort to produce that sound that we've just heard over there. You can just imagine. I mean, it's quite a powerful contraction of the diaphragm required to put such a big sound out into the air. Might just rest for a bit. But we could not ask for more this morning. We're going to sit here and spend a bit more time with these lions, and let's see what else happens.
So James, you commented earlier it'd be nice to see a Ngala female, but imagine this area now in the west where it's the last time we saw Tswalu male. That's that blue eye. So imagine we could find that guy. Do you think the Ross males are still in this area? We got a message from a guide at Shinzela yesterday saying the Ross males and the lionesses with the youngsters crossed back onto Ngala. So luckily we've got a few people helping us out. It's just a bit of a competition. Who's going to find them first? I might just put Morgan on the trucker seat in a little while. Morgan's more than happy with that. Let's try to sit quietly for a little while. Thank you, Nikki. They're just saying his tracker mesh is now following tracks of one-liners. Oh yeah, no, ox pickers, just a little bit further west of us. You don't find ox pickers on lions, so no good for us. Might be more giraffe or zebra or something like that. Although saying that you find ox pickers on warthogs as well, especially, I must say, it's one bird you really listen for when you do go walking. So yeah.
We were following the buffalo's tracks from that herd that had been at the dam last night. We did see tracks briefly, follow them for a while. We stopped on a termite mound to have a little scan, and then we kept walking, and then we realized after a short time that there were no longer fresh tracks and dung around us. And so those buffaloes had changed their direction slightly. Now, it seems to be that they were heading up in that direction, and we've heard from some of the other game viewers that are driving around that they have found the buffalo herd lying down somewhere at the top of this hill. So although we still want to try and follow the tracks, it makes it a bit easier for us that we actually know where they've settled. And they might stay there for this morning whilst it's cool. Maybe when it gets a bit warmer, they'll start to move around to come to water, maybe if it gets very hot and dry later. Elizabeth, that's a great question, and Pridelands being part of the greater Kruger National Park means that there can be any amount of buffaloes, really. The whole population of Kruger could decide to get up and walk into Pridelands, but at any one time on Pridelands there could be a herd of buffalo moving around, and this herd is about between 50 and 80 animals. So, yeah, maybe let's say there might be up to 100, because there might be a few groups of, what sometimes gets called dugger boys, or those old buffalo bulls that are just moving around on their own, staying close to water, which is also something we have to be wary of. As we walk up in this direction, following that herd of buffalo loosely, there can always be a few older males that can't keep up or don't want to keep up because they get chased and harassed by younger, stronger males who might be lying down in any thickets around here, which can be quite stressful for us if we do encounter them, especially at close range. So we do have to be very wary of that, or aware of it. Yeah, and we're just zigzagging our way up this hill in the hopes that we might come across those tracks again, and then we can follow them and see maybe what they were doing during last night. I mean, they've moved fairly far. It's a few kilometers, and it was a dark night, lots of clouds. Buffalo herds can become very big. The biggest buffalo herd I've seen was about 1,000 buffaloes. That was actually at Ngala, at the big dam there. Here on Pridelands, I've seen the herd last night. I didn't see them, but the tracks, there was about 80. That's a pretty big herd for Pridelands. And I mean, in certain places like Zimbabwe, close to Kariba Dam, areas where there's lots of water, buffalo herds can reach many thousands. So it's definitely possible for them to grow to huge extents. I mean, historically, when buffaloes had all the range, all the space they needed, there was very little human influence. There must have been hundreds of thousands of buffaloes roaming around the areas like the Kruger National Park and the eastern part of South Africa, the southeastern part, all the way up into East Africa. Maybe even millions. Right, well, while we try to figure out where these tracks of this buffalo herd are, we'll send you back to Wade, who's still with that pair of lions.
Welcome back on this wonderful morning here on andBeyond Phinda. We're still with these two lions, and while this male has just been enjoying the sun a bit, as we were watching them with the binoculars out, and we actually managed to spot the other male lion walking up in the distance, just at the edge of the grassland. So as you can see on your screens now, those trees in the distance there, we spotted the male walking right on the edge in the distance. He was walking along there for a bit and he lay down. I wonder if he isn't near the other lioness that we heard calling out there. One of the other vehicles that has joined us here at the sighting, on their way here, they found tracks of the lioness with the 3 cubs at the moment in the Pride. And they had crossed into this open area behind these lions. I wonder if that other male, because we saw him walking, we saw him lay down somewhere. I wonder that is where we heard that other lion calling. So he may have walked to them and joined up with them. There is another vehicle out there as well looking for those. Let's see if they find it. We'll hear from them just now. But for now, oh man, enjoying this view is not a bad one. Yeah, I just hear the update on the radio now. They found the other lioness out there. Exactly where we heard them.
You can hear there. Can you guys see that lioness there? So where that vehicle is going,
Zarek is asking if lions roar at each other, is it considered a challenge? Zarek, it depends entirely on who they're roaring at, or and what they're calling for. For example, these 2 male lions over here, they split up at the moment, and they have been split up since yesterday. And even though they are a coalition, they're 2 brothers, and they would, they've stayed together from birth, and they will stay together continually through their lives and defend this territory together. They will often split up to patrol their territories, because they cover a massive territory here in the north of the reserve, and it's a lot of distance to cover. So by splitting up, they cover more distance. So they will often call to each other when they are separate. When they are together, it's always less likely to hear them calling, and if they're with the Pride, even less so. But when they're out on patrol, they will constantly keep in communication with each other, calling to each other, seeing where they are. And then also to any other lions, it is a direct challenge and a warning, because that roaring, that vocalizing is purely to tell the other lions, this is me, this is my territory, don't try your luck here. But when they're calling to each other, that's purely a communicative thing to see where what are they doing. You'll sometimes see that the lion changes behavior when he hears the other one calling, because his brother might be calling him and saying, hey, come over here. But right now, what we've heard this morning, what we've been lucky enough to see, was most likely just a communication thing. Where are you? What are you doing? But if they're at the edges of their territory and the male lions in the neighboring territory, call, then sometimes they get a lot more aggressive in their calling, and you can actually hear a change in tone, and they'll sort of shout to each other from over the fence, which is quite an entertaining thing to be a part of. Up and down. Margie is asking about the survival rate of the lion cubs in this area. Margie, on Phinda in particular, we actually have a very good survival rate. We're quite fortunate here to have a really nice big reserve. I mean, we are now over 30,000 hectares, and we only have 3 prides on it, which helps us and helps the lions in the sense that there is not much competition for territory. You know, we don't have this massive population in a small area. So with less competition between the prides themselves, a huge abundance of food availability, because we've got a lot of general game around here, the lions do not struggle to find food. So typically I would say up to like 75% of the cubs survive. We do quite well here. It really is a benefit to the lions, and it's amazing how you actually see a change in behavior from the lions, where in other areas they focus more on hunting bigger animals, things like buffalo and so on. Because of our high population of general game, the lions don't often go for the bigger animals. You can just imagine, you know, when you got to put your life on the line every time you're hunting something, it's much easier to go for the smaller general game, the Ngala, the wildebeest zebras, and, you know, not have to struggle every time to hunt something much bigger and much more dangerous. So because of all of these factors, we often have a much better survival rate. Look at that female yawning. Head back down. As we spend time here, they're slowly starting to show more signs of activity. This lioness has yawned a couple of times now in the last few minutes. Male's been picking his head up more and more. It's always tough to know with cats, but these are signs that we look for signs of activity. You know, that yawning from the lioness there, we may see her if we watch for a bit. They may even start grooming a little bit. All signs that they're looking to start moving around. I think it's going to take a while. They often need a bit of time to warm up, especially after spending all that energy vocalizing like that. And it's a really nice spot sitting here, just soaking up the sun. The sun has slowly started burning off the mist. There's only a little bit left on the horizon. It looks like it's actually going to be a lovely warm day. And we don't have that wind that we had yesterday. If we look out into the distance, we can't see the lions, but we can still see the other vehicle that is with the lions. It may be worth going there just now to check. But, man, not a bad sight. Look at that. We're going to sit here and enjoy this for a bit longer still.
So yeah, we're really in the northeastern part of the reserve now.
Founded in 1973, the Endangered Wildlife Trust has consistently and effectively worked towards achieving our conservation legacy. Contribute to this legacy by visiting EWT's Get Wild eShop and purchase products with a purpose.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scribe. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is a call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning, up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
We are working very hard trying to find these buffaloes. It's desperately difficult. And I'm extremely exhausted. 24 hours of no walking because of all the wind. This is just too much. They're somewhere up there. But we just passed a game viewer right now who told us that they could not find the buffalo. So the task is left to us. They said they had some tracks just up the road a bit further up. So what we're going to try and do is get to those tracks and then move into this block. It's not a very large piece of land with no roads, but it's large enough maybe to hold 80 buffalo, especially if they're just lying down, not making too much noise, just chewing cud. Let's see if we can find them. After a short break, of course, because goodness gracious me, we can't walk more than 500 meters without a break. I mean, that's just crazy. These buffaloes will be looking for anything green to eat. I mean, right now, it is very dry. I mean, if you look at this grass here, that's next to the road, I mean, it's just completely dry. There's almost nothing left that's really palatable. But when you look closer in, some of this grass here, look at this. The bases of these grasses here, there is a bit of greenery, a bit of life left in there. So that's what the buffaloes are looking for. And remember, at this time of year, because it's so dry, they have to eat a phenomenal amount of this dry stuff just to find the energy requirements that they want to meet their energy requirements. So we keep moving. Actually, they wouldn't eat this grass. This is couch grass, which is, very incredibly fragrant. Percy, buffaloes are not always found in herds. Groups of buffaloes with females and youngsters would definitely be in herds, ranging in size from just a few to, many thousands in certain areas. But here on Pridelands, we often see buffalo bulls, especially along the drainage lines, not so much where we are right now here, sort of heading up a crest, but down towards the drainage lines and the dams. Sometimes we see one single buffalo bull moving down into the water to wallow, to cover themselves in mud, try and... Oh, there's an oxpecker flying over, a whole bunch of them, in fact. Ooh, okay, they're going to lead us directly to these buffaloes. Let's watch them. I don't know if it's easy to actually put them on film, but there's 5 oxpeckers, red-billed oxpeckers flying across in a group, in a chevron formation. Let's see if they dip down there somewhere. Oh, goodness, they're flying too far. Please don't fly any further. Please go down. Oh, man, that's far. Okay, well, they've flown probably 400 or 500 meters and then I can't see them anymore, but definitely heading probably in a beeline straight for that buffalo herd. So what we'll do is we'll also beeline straight through this block over here and try and see if we can find that buffalo herd, which is just up there. I'm almost certain I can almost feel them. Well, we're going to send you over to Wade and his mating pair whilst we keep on the hunt.
Good morning and welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. We're still here with these lions. Just as those buffalo might sometimes go on their own solo missions, so do these lions. And that other male lion is still that we see over here. And it sounds like the other lioness has crossed off into those woodlands over there. But this guy over here is still sitting on the same little ridge with we haven't seen any signs of them mating yet, which leads me to think that they have not yet started. Oh, look at that. Oh, big stretch. Man, amazing to see him up like that. And now that he's up, you can really see that belly hanging down. Definitely had a good meal in the last while. Let's see what happens. Back down. Just a change in position. But look at the yawn from the lioness. These are all good signs. Lions often take a while to get going. And, you know, they'll often give these signs and they get up and you think, man, here we go. Nice big yawn. But it's a bit of a process. It takes some time to get going. They often have these little false starts. But really cool to see. Like I was saying just now, oh, there's another yawn. Look at those teeth. They may be sort of at the beginning stages of the mating period. As you may know, lions will usually mate over a few days, and it's a really intensive process for them, sometimes mating as much as every 15 to 30 minutes. With these two males, this one that we're looking at over here is often the more dominant male of the two. But it actually alters from time to time, interestingly enough. Between these two males, even though he is slightly bigger than his brother is quite a fighter. And every now and then they compete for dominance. And sometimes his smaller brother wins out over him. And then you'll see him mating first with the females. But normally what we'd be seeing here, it looks like this female is sort of starting, and that's why she's left the pride and joined up with him. He may have already chased his other brother away and won out on this battle. As she comes into estrus, she might start mating with him. We may see them together for a day or so, but then she will make the effort to go to the other brother and mate with him as well, because it's really important for her that both males accept the cubs as their own. So she does have to mate with both dominant males. Oh, see how we looking at him yawning more and more now. Good signs, because it means that he might be warming up to the idea of moving around a bit. Another big yawn from him. And now he's grooming a little bit. Look at that. All good signs. Yawning, grooming, stretching. As we've been sitting here, it's been warming up gradually. Almost time to start taking off some of the layers. But for them, it means that he's most likely now started to warm up nicely, and we may yet see them start moving around a bit. at that long tongue as he grooms over there. And that massive tongue is covered in these tiny little hooks, which are equally capable of grooming really effectively and stripping meat off a bone even. Look at that. As we're joined by another vehicle in the sighting, these guys are here just in time to enjoy this live. Although they didn't get to hear that incredible roar that we did just now. But who knows, we may yet hear it again. It's always less likely to hear the lions roaring in the morning, but not impossible. I've got a question from Zarek this morning asking if they're mating, would they start their own pride? Zarek, no, I don't think so. So this lioness is part of the pride already, the pride which we call the North Pride. So in all likelihood, if they had to mate now, it would take she'd be pregnant for roughly 3 months, shortly before giving birth. While she's mating, she'll split off from the pride and stay with the males, but then she'll rejoin the pride. But shortly before giving birth, she would actually leave the pride and go look for a den site, a nice safe area to raise those cubs, because when the cubs are born, they're essentially helpless and they can't keep up with the pride's movement. So she would then look for a spot, den there for 6 weeks roughly, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, sometimes up to a couple of months. But afterwards, as soon as the cubs are strong enough to be moving around, she will typically rejoin the pride. Lions are extremely social cats. In fact, they're the only real sociable cat. Most cats tend to be solitary, but the lions like these sort of family groups, and they'll stay together for the most part. So most likely this pride would just get a bit bigger then as she gets cubs. Sometimes you do see down the line, if prides get a bit too big, then they'll start to sort of fracture and split off into smaller groups. The bigger the pride gets, the more you have the chances of sort of conflict between different members of the pride, and then you might see them split off into 2 separate prides. But I think for the moment, this pride is generally quite sociable, and they tend to stay in one unit. I think she'll just most likely rejoin the same pride after raising those cubs. We're going to sit here a little while longer, look at this male, interested in what's going on around him. Let's wait here a bit and see what happens.
We still making our way up this slope to see if we can find some buffaloes somewhere in this area. And we've come across this area here, which is filled with the devastation that an elephant or a group of elephants has wrought. Now, it looks very traumatic. This tree is obviously not doing so great, unfortunately, but it's probably going to survive. There's probably a couple of roots that are still in the ground there, as you can see just over here. This big, strong root is still in the ground, and there's probably other roots that are also there. So some life might still flow into this tree along this. But if you look in this tangle of thorn branches and grass, it makes a wonderful microhabitat for a lot of small creatures, from rodents to reptiles. Even birds might live in there, safe from the predations of larger predators. And there's other animals that have been here as well. I mean, I saw porcupine droppings a moment ago. There's a whole bunch of scat from other animals. So many things have been using this area now that the elephants have pushed this tree over. So remember, that's what we've talked about many times before. Elephants being ecosystem engineers, able to change the environment to suit their needs. Pull down a tree so that they can get food, dig for water, that kind of stuff. To a large extent, I think elephants might be second only to humans in their ability to change their environment drastically. Oh, I thought I just heard a branch breaking, but that's actually a woodpecker. See, tap, tap, tapping away somewhere behind us. Of course, as soon as I point it out, it stops. I still hear it, but I cannot see it. Somewhere around, there's a bearded woodpecker that's been basically flying along and feeding along the exact same route that we've been walking. We keep bumping into it, which is really nice. But yes, ecosystem engineers, elephants doing their thing. Hopefully, we'll get to see some soon.
Welcome back here to andBeyond Phinda. We're still with this pair of lions, and as you can see, they've got their heads up, looking quite intently in the distance a bit. And we did get a brief glimpse of him just now. It looks like the other male is walking and beelining it straight towards these two over here. So it would be really cool to see. You know, we just get a sort of glimpse of his head popping up every now and then in the grass. He's still quite a ways away, but it'd be really interesting to see what happens if that other male gets here. Because if these two are not mating at all and, you know, just sort of happen to have met up, then there should be no animosity between them. If they are in the sort of beginning stages of mating, though, you would likely see a little bit more competition then, because then he would look to chase his brother away. But very cool to see them sitting out here like this in the open, and we don't even have to go looking for the other male because he's coming straight towards us. I think he's stopped now at the moment. I haven't seen his head pop out again. But as we sit here and watch, can just make out the top of his head at the top of the long grass. But it's a really tough view. He's wandering around there, but making his way here. You can see that this male doesn't look too phased. He's laid back down. He's still taking it easy here. The lioness, however, has her head up. She's looking, checking what's happening. She's looking straight at that other male lion. It's always amazing to see the bonds between these animals, and it's something that's quite unique to lions. We have a question from Victor asking about the fighting between the lions. How fatal is it? Victor, these fights can be unbelievably scary and dangerous. When males meet up and compete, for example, between these two, they will never go sort of to the death with each other, because their fighting is purely for dominance. The moment one realizes he's in over his head, he will sort of bow out. And they've inflicted quite a few wounds on each other over time. Both brothers are quite scarred up, and a lot of it's from fighting between each other. But as they fight with other lions, it becomes a different story, and that often becomes a to the death fight. Here we can actually see on the screen, there's that other brother making his way towards us with a vehicle following him. Look at that. So if these guys had to come across other male lions, they would either try to kill the lion or chase it well clear of their territory. And in fact, we had a massive fight here just a few months ago. I think it was about 3 months ago now. These two male lions here in the north met up with our southern male lions, the two Biala males we call them. And the Biala males in one night traversed pretty much the entire section of Phinda, coming up here to the north, and they chased the north males around a bit, and eventually they met up in a massive fight. No one was there for the fight, unfortunately, but we did see the lions very much bruised and battered the next day. This male lion that's walking towards us now, he was incredibly injured, and they actually managed to kill one of the male lions from the south. So yeah, unless they can chase them clear of the territory, they will try their best to remove the competition. So these fights can be extremely deadly. Look how this lion has stopped now. He's seen his brother out on the ridge. It's amazing how, as he's seen now he's walking with real purpose, heading straight towards us, because up until now, he had not seen his brother. When we had heard them calling, he knew sort of roughly where his brother was, but he didn't know exactly where. That's why he was just sort of walking, and as we saw him walking down, he was sort of zigzagging, walking in this general direction, but not, beelining it, so to speak. But now we can see him coming straight towards, and his brother has now stood up here on this ridge. While we're enjoying the view from this guy, he's busy scent marking. Janet, you are 100% correct. He is almost invisible in that grass. And it shows you that sort of color of the coat, and even that dark mane. It blends in so well in this sort of dry winter grass. Without seeing that movement, almost impossible to see them. And a lot of the animals are so well camouflaged in that way. This open grassland, while being amazing to view animals in, if these lions, and even a lot of the other ones, the cheetahs as well, if they lay down in the grass, you would never see them. This male stood up, scent marked, turned around. He's now sat down again. The female is still intently watching the other male lion coming towards them. This male seems a little bit more relaxed, scanning around. Will be interesting to see the dynamic, because for all we know, these two could have just randomly met up. This female might have split off from the pride last night while hunting, or something along those lines. So it could be that they are just here at the same time, or that she's in the beginning stages of her mating period. So it'll be interesting to see now, if they meet up, what exactly happens. It looks like for the moment the other male lion has stopped. He's now roughly about 120 meters away. Kent, you're not alone there. I am having the time of my life here. There is honestly no better way to start a day than to just head out here, enjoy beautiful sunrise, hear lions calling, and next thing, here they are out in the open. And I hope this other brother comes up here. He looks like I can just barely see him. He's not far from here, but it does look like he's sort of sat down. You can see his head sticking up though. But we just gotta go past the other vehicles, and there we can see at the base of that tree is the brother. Look at that, huh? You can see his head popping out there. So well camouflaged. And it's quite amazing because now, obviously this time of year, us being in winter time, everything's dry, everything's brown. You'd think that in the midst of summer, when this grass is lush and green, that it would be easier to spot them. It's actually not the case. This camouflage works year-round, regardless of the terrain that they're in, because you will often see that these lions move around quite a bit, and even though they spend a fair amount of time here in this open grassland, they'll spend just as much time in the woodlands, and even moving through those amazing sand forests that we have close to the lodges. And a lion in a forest is quite a notable thing, and not something you see every day. And here, it happens relatively often. These two males patrol a massive territory from this open grassland through the woodlands all the way down, sort of to halfway down the reserve. And they'll often cross through the forests and woodlands on their patrols. Look at him laying down there. As his brother has stopped, they've also relaxed a bit and just taken a little snooze. We've got this very light breeze across us, and it's still quite a chilly wind now this early morning, but it is really pleasant here in the sun. If I were this lion, I would be enjoying myself here. And as we saw when he stood up, big belly, he's not in any hurry to go hunt. So what better way to spend a nice cool morning than to bask in the sun like this. So we're going to stay here just a little bit longer and see if these lions decide to meet up. If they don't, we may carry on with our drive and see what else is out there. But for now, let's sit here and see what happens.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
Okay, there's another big male coming in from our left here. Another big male, look at this. This is the one. Now you're going to see sparks fly, guys. Guys, it doesn't get better than this, eh? Yes, unbelievable. Africa, I love you, eh?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
So we finally made it to Alfred Dam. Sadly no wild dogs, but a whole bunch of waterbuck, some wildebeest, hippos in the dam. There were some zebra on the other side and they crossed through. Can't see them now. There was also one kudu. But quite nice species diversity around here. The crocodile is in the other dam further west from here. It's just laying on the bank. I think it's actually the female. She's gotten quite big. But anyway, here we are. It's lovely with the water so still. I mean, look at that beautiful reflection. I was saying it's perfect wakeboarding conditions. Except that you probably wouldn't want to wakeboard here with all the hippos. I'd be rather frightened of it. Anyway, and probably one of my most memorable sightings here would be wild dogs chasing a waterbuck straight into the water, and it was amazing. It was a baby waterbuck, and it swam all the way across to the other side. Literally no effort at all. So of course, being called waterbuck, they feel safer around water, and you often do find them around water. Characteristic ring on the bum. You know, Mother Nature is rather cruel when she puts a target on your hindquarters. It's one of those things. Nice to see so many species around here. We're lucky. This didn't dry up this year. The previous 3 years, it has dried up. Christa's saying it's always great to see some waterbuck. Absolutely, it is. You actually don't see them too often on Ngala. Although I guess it depends on the time you come around these watering holes. During hot days, if you come here midday, you probably find upwards of 50 vultures coming in every single day to come wash themselves. And then elephants swimming. It is lovely. I like this spot. Very peaceful. But they are rather aware of everything around them. You can see a lot of them looking up and around and ears propped up. But no sign of any predators. Some of the trackers are now on foot tracking the Pridelands. Those are the lionesses with the youngsters. And maybe the Ross males not too far north from here. We'll see what they find in a bit. Hopefully they do find them. Would be quite nice. Now there's some impalas running on the opposite bank. They're coming through, so some of the waterbuck just lifted their head to see what they're up to. You can see them coming. I think it might be a male chasing another male, and the females are just further off to the right over there. It's heating up quite nicely. It's already a much better day than yesterday. It's good for us. I must say, it's always a change in weather. We see change in animal patterns. And we struggle to find them when it changes so drastically. And then partners are coming down to drink as well. Of course, they would choose to drink during the day. It's safer for them because they can see further rather than coming at night. And that's when ambush predators will take advantage of the, darkness. Megan just absolutely loves multi-species sightings like this one. Thank you, Megan. I'm glad I could make your day. Pity we couldn't show you the zebra as well. They just left before you guys came to us. Shame, one of the waterbuck. The baby is drinking from the mom. And rather aggressive when they do that. You'll see her drinking for a little bit and then she'll literally just drive her head up to try push out more milk like she did there. Can't imagine it's comfortable for the mother. It's just very tough being a mom. Although if you ask my mom, I was the easiest baby. Definitely the favorite in the family. Thanks, Mom. The two sisters, different story. Hope they're not watching. Like I said, very, very peaceful spot. And absolutely lovely. There's not a breath of wind at all. Bizarre that the crocodiles moved to the smaller watering hole rather than... there is another crocodile. That's why all the waterbuck are standing on the edge. Morgan, the edge of the water there, just in front of the female, actually looking down at the crocodile. There we go. So there are still two crocodile in this area. The one actually came from further south. It was one that just had 3 feet, and because the watering hole in the south dried out, I had to get rangers to bring the crocodile here. See, the one's now going closer to investigate. Ensure it's a predator. It's be quite scary. I mean, as ambush predators go, crocodiles are absolutely amazing because they can have their eyes just above the water, be completely out of sight, watch their prey. This one is not trying to camouflage itself, of course, it's outside. So don't worry about it. I don't think we're going to see it snap around and attack the waterbuck, although it would be quite fun, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I must say, the crocodiles here, they're not really the size of the ones in East Africa or along permanent riverbeds. Since we don't have a permanent river on the property, our crocodiles aren't that big yet. So they mostly feed on catfish. Morgan the zebra are back. There's just more and more and more species coming along. They're also coming down to the edge of the water for a drink. It was a good spot to come to. Mind you, we were hoping for wild dogs, and what we got were wildebeest, waterbuck, hippo, crocodile, zebra, and impala. Sorry, I forgot about them. Jackson, I have never seen a crocodile attacking an animal that is drinking, not in real life. What I have seen is also wild dogs. They chased an impala actually into this watering hole, and the crocodile got hold of the impala. I've also seen a hippo kill an impala that wild dogs chased into this watering hole. But no, I've never actually seen it snap at something drinking from the water's edge. Jackson, I don't know if you've seen this before. Have you ever watched wild dogs coming for a drink at the water? They have trust issues. Any piece of floating anything, be it elephant dung or small stump, they bark at it. They go forward, backwards. No trust at all, thinking it's a crocodile. So they're actually very, very careful. Someday, it's on the bucket list to go to East Africa, see their great migration, and then I'm sure I might see something getting eaten by a crocodile while drinking, or just crossing the river. So Jackson, hopefully it's going to happen. Just not too sure when. Like I said, the crocodiles here, they're not really that big just yet. So their main diet would be fish. And I can tell you there are some very large catfish in this area. Super, super peaceful. Okay, we are going to head further east and then north, see if we can give the other guys a hand in finding this Proud Alliance. Leave everything to drink in peace. There's quite a number of hippos here. Bizarre how that changes because so I just got back from Cape Town 2 days ago, and then 2 weeks before that I was actually here with some guests, and there were only 4 hippos in the watering hole. And now if we look at the other side of it, let me try count them. Must be 12 or more. 12 or more hippos. Absolutely amazing. There are also some hippo babies there. We saw the tracks on the way of the hippos walking around. So I think they can travel up to 14 kilometers away from a watering hole just to go feed. And of course, they mostly do this at night. They go eat on grass. I often have people coming on safari. They'll ask, when do hippos go hunt? And I'll tell you what, I would not be doing this job without a cage on the vehicle if hippos were predatory. The hippos agree, even they laughed at my joke. This one in front of us has now disappeared and going over to the other side. Always in summer, you kind of envy hippos, being in the water the entire day. Must be quite nice. But then winter time, when you come past these watering holes, it's like 7 or 8 degrees and you're freezing and you've got like 4 layers on. You don't want to be a hippo. And again, it brings me back to the zebra scenario. Imagine having to eat dried grass for your entire winter season. No curries, no stews. Not for me. Quite interesting watching the impalas drink on the other side. They kind of take it in turns. Some will drink, some will face the other way. Some will go feeding, some will drink again. A lot of them go face the other way. Constantly aware. I don't think a human heart can take the pressure of being an impala. And just scared all the time. I would be that impala that just runs around and alarm calls it literally everything, just so a leopard thinks, oh no, it's been seen. I would be a horrible impala, just in case anyone was wondering.
So as you can see, we've managed to find the herd of buffalo. They were lying down in the grass. So I'm whispering because we're very close and they're obviously aware of us. They were lying in the grass, and so we got quite close to them before we sort of saw the full size of the herd. We only saw 1 or 2 standing up. And then as we got closer, we realized the whole herd was here being very quiet, lying down. And I'd just been discussing a moment ago with Evo, our security, just to say, let's be very aware, because if they are lying down in this grass, it can be very difficult to spot them. And we've come right and we've spotted them now, which is fantastic. This is that whole group of about 80, and as you can see, they've got their heads up, most of them looking towards us, listening, ears forward. Buffalo groups like this, herds, are likely to sort of slowly creep forward to investigate. And then once they've figured out what we are, they'll make a decision. Are they going to run away? Or are they going to relax and just keep feeding? They're generally not very aggressive as a herd. Yolanda, Buffaloes will give us a number of warnings. They will snort and grunt, sometimes stamp their feet. Even this now with their heads up like that, it's just warning us that we are inside their zone of awareness. They're aware of us and they're concerned. Not necessarily really concerned, but they're trying to gather evidence. There are some buffaloes probably about half, 2/3 of the distance that these ones are, but they're still lying down in the grass. So clearly not that concerned if they're happy to lie down there. Animals generally have a number of comfort zones. There's the comfort zone where they're completely ignoring us. Then there's the alert zone. And then there's the warning zone. These guys are in the alert zone right now. They're alert to us, but they're not giving us any sort of warnings. If we got closer, they would definitely warn us by maybe trotting off or running away. And there's I guess what you'd call the action zone or the danger zone or the conflict zone, where they're likely to feel like we're way too close and have to do something about it, either by running away a lot or by charging towards us. Hopefully that's not going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen at this stage now. They've been watching us for 5 minutes and they're still not really doing anything. Others are still lying down. That one is coming a bit closer now. I don't know if you can see. The one female just took a step forward just so she could have a better look. They've come up. We're on the very highest point on the whole of Pridelands. This is a spot that's called 8 Spun. And 8 Spun, because it's the highest point, it's much warmer up here at night than it is in the surrounding areas. That's almost certainly why these buffaloes have come up here. So we're going to manage this sighting now. We might move off a little bit and give them a bit more space. But in the meantime, we'll send you off back to Phinda, I think.
Good morning. Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. Look at that face. Oh, man. Can you see those teeth over there? This is unbelievable. So just now, the lioness got up. She moved to the side and she urinated a little bit and then lay down again. This male has now gone and sat there. And what he's doing there, he's actually even smelling and even tasting the urine. Look at those teeth. That is unbelievable. So this that we're seeing over here, this is called the Fleming grimace. And a lot of animals will do this. From the cats to zebras, you name it. And it's essentially quite a unique organ called the Jacobson's organ, which sits in the sinus cavities. And look there, he's doing it again. Wow. So whenever they're smelling urine and they're testing the pheromones here, so he will actually take a big whiff and then curl his lip up and push the tongue up into the roof of the mouth, and that actually pushes the scent particles up into that little Jacobson's organs, and that's what tells him if this female is an estrus or not, and helps him to detect those pheromones. And like I said, a lot of animals will do it, and we've just gotten a great shot of it. So this is a fairly good sign, and I think now, having seen this, I think that these two are in the early stages of mating. I think they've just met up. They haven't started yet. She is quite receptive to him. While just before you guys came to us, while she was urinating, he was sort of sniffing around her, and she didn't chase him back. She was quite sort of accepting of his attention. So I think this is a fairly good indication that she's coming into estrus now. They're not mating yet, but it is close. Maybe in the next day or so we're going to see them start. But oh, now he's got his head up again. Man, oh man. Look at that mouth open like that. What an incredible thing to see. Yeah, him licking his lips there. So the other brother is still exactly where we last saw him. Oh no, big yawn. He's still in that same position, which is quite an odd thing. Sat down, and it's just over 100 meters away from us. We haven't seen his head pop up again. This guy's still smelling around there. Look at those teeth. It is always quite a impressive thing when they do that phlegm and grimace, because it looks a lot more like a snarl than a grimace, if you ask me. But really cool to see. So I think all of this is sort of starting to piece the puzzle together, and I do think that these two are in the sort of beginning stages. And while we haven't seen them mating yet, she's definitely quite responsive to him. He's waiting around. The fact that that other male has come straight up here and is now parked a little distance away tells me as well that these two are likely in that sort of beginning mating stages, because if they were not mating at all and they were just sort of hanging out here together, he would have no issues coming over and joining his brother with the lioness. But the fact that he came close and has now stopped a short distance away, it may sort of indicate as well that he knows he's not entirely welcome here, because this male, if he's the more dominant one at the moment, he wouldn't let his brother close to him. So really cool, and it's amazing how the longer you spend with them, the more you see, the more you learn, and the more it makes sense as to what's happening in front of you. Because it could have been that these two just randomly met up. It could have been that they were halfway through mating, but to see them in the sort of beginning stages, the sort of courting period, is quite fascinating to watch. And the fact that he literally lay down there with that sort of patch of urine between his legs is quite something. He's incredibly fascinated with it there. Look, he's gone down to smell again. Oh, those massive canines. We have a question coming in this morning from Faith, asking if lions mate for life. Faith, they actually don't. So the lionesses, they are sociable, so they'll live in these little prides. Usually related females will stay together, but they will only mate with the dominant males in the region. And as the males compete and fight and change, the pride will typically stay in the same territory for the majority of its time, and just mate with the dominant males in that region. So the dominant males can change sometimes every couple of years, sometimes a bit longer. It depends entirely on how strong and how dominant those males are and how long they can defend that territory successfully against other males. But the moment younger, stronger males come in and fight them off, either chasing them out or killing them off, they would then have to switch their allegiance to the new dominant males in their territory. Lions from sort of outlying territories can even sometimes look to mate with males in neighboring territories just to get them to accept the cubs. Like we've seen here just a short while ago, we actually had a couple of the lionesses from the mountain pride in the south coming up here to mate with the northern males, because these two are by far the most dominant in the reserve at the moment. But so they would mate with whichever dominant males are around, and if it changes, then they would switch their allegiance. But it's always in their best interest to have a stable, set dominant male. If it changes too regularly, then it puts them at risk and their cubs as well, because new males would look to kill off the previous male's cubs as well. Look at that mouth open. He's still panting quite heavily. I can imagine that big belly is weighing down on him. And because we saw just now, he's really, really full. I think it's still slightly uncomfortable. Like when you've had too much at Christmas dinner. That's how these guys often eat. But head pointing towards that sun, which has now come quite a ways since we first saw it. But still really nice and warm with just a cool breeze blowing across us. I'd say in the last 5 minutes, the other male, which is just a short ways away, has not picked his head up once. So it is, at this stage, I mean, the fact that he covered quite a distance to get here and then stopped, I don't think he's going to come and join these lions anytime soon. I think he sort of came to see what was going on, noticed his slightly larger brother with the lioness, and has since kept a respectful distance. And it may be worth seeing what happens, but I think it's a lot less likely now that he's actually going to come and join these two over here. And even though we've been here quite a while, they seem to be in no rush to move along. Even when the lioness was up, she didn't look particularly hungry either. So we know that if they've got full bellies and they've got a nice source of water just here on our right hand side, they don't have a big need to travel anywhere. And as we get later in this routine that they have here, they'll probably start mating. Look at him shifting around a little bit. He's going to lay flat. Look at that huge belly. We're going to enjoy the scene for a little bit longer. We may even head out just now and see if we can either get another view of that male lion or move along. But for now, we'll be waiting here to see.
Here on WildEarth, we've been fortunate enough to watch our lion kings and queens grow up in front of our eyes. They've all become near and dear to our hearts. We cannot help but feel for them in their moments of struggle and celebrate with them in their moments of victory. We've been enthralled joining in on the hunt. We've spent countless hours watching them cuddle and snooze in the hot African sun. WildEarth celebrates our tawny champions on this important day, acknowledging the importance of lions worldwide. We cannot wait to see how their stories play out and what the future holds for the upcoming generations.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go. How cool is this?
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
So we've moved around the buffalo to get a bit more space from them. And we've actually found that they're lying on a small road, which offers us a great chance to get a great view, which is not always the case on a bushwalk. So we are right now probably 60 meters, maybe a bit less from these buffalo. And they're still watching us, but starting to do their thing. Some of the youngsters are starting to move around and feed. We are actually standing where they probably rested last night as well. There's plenty of dung all around us. It's a big open area. I actually think that this area that we're in right now was probably an old cattle area back in the days when this was a farm and not a nature reserve. Because it seems fairly open and it's a nice high spot. So we're in a nice warm place for the cattle to be in the winter. And this buffalo herd has started to move. I've seen quite a few individuals crossing to the right of the screen, which is basically back in the direction of the waterhole at Ndlovu Dam. So I wouldn't be surprised if these buffaloes go and drink at some point this afternoon or even late this morning, between activities probably. Oh, and there's a big boy just coming out to the left of the road there. So when we were standing before, when we were talking to you, one buffalo stood up just like this male here, and he was very close, probably less than 20 meters from us. And he was an old buffalo with very little fur, and he's like got scars all over his body. And we just quietly said, we need to move away from this buffalo. Herds with females and youngsters will generally not try to do much to us, but a buffalo bull, when it stands up and realizes how close we are, might just take it into its own hands to protect itself, thinking that we're a danger. Even now with this buffalo looking, can feel my pulse rising just a little bit, thinking, of the potential that this animal has. It's a powerful animal, maybe somewhere around 700 to 800 kilograms, and it's muscle. Surprisingly agile for a big animal. And very fast, of course. We can't hope to outrun any of the animals in the African bush. That's why we always say on a bushwalk, if we surprise an animal, whatever you do, don't run. Stand still. And then the animal should stand still too. Olivia, there won't be one single leader of this buffalo herd. What normally happens is there's a group of strong young males that will be known as pathfinders, and they will be tasked with finding the clearest and easiest pathways to things like water and food. And they're very perceptive. These buffaloes can smell these things from a long way away. So as they walk, those pathfinders are heads to the ground or lifting up and smelling and looking. And then around the fringes of the herd, there'll be other large male buffalo that are strong and able to protect. They will be the dominant males, generally speaking, but it won't be one single buffalo. I mean, unless it's a very small family, then there might just be one bull, and he would, take the lead. So look, a buffalo's actually lied down now. One of the buffaloes is busy sitting down again on the road, which is a great sign for us. It shows us that these animals are becoming more relaxed with our presence. We're not approaching them, we're not making noise or any sudden movements, and they're starting to realize that we're not actually a threat. So for that particular buffalo, remember every animal is different. For that particular buffalo that's lying down, we have become part of its comfort zone. It is comfortable with us where we are. The one that's watching us, still alert. His zone is different. He's still alert because he's probably tasked with the protection of this herd. That's his function. But the other buffalo, the females, they feel comfortable and safe now. Their heads are down. They're going to rest. They're going to sleep. Warm up a bit more, maybe. It's great to see this animal that actually we feel quite strongly for as eco-training. It's our symbol, actually. So a female buffalo and her calf, because they really symbolize tenacious protective attitudes. Oliver, I'm not sure that I heard the question correctly. Did you ask how much do these buffaloes eat during the day? Was that the question? I think it was. If that was the question, then they eat a lot, Oliver. They eat a lot of food. I mean, right now, these buffaloes will almost certainly... Let me use my binoculars just to have a little gander there. Just check. They could be doing something called chewing the cud. Actually not. The one buffalo that I can see lying down is not chewing the cud. So generally buffaloes will use the good times of the day, like now, when it's cooler, to feed on as much grass material as they can and fill their stomachs. And then, because remember, they've got 4 stomachs. They fill one at a time. When the stomach is full and they've eaten enough and conditions are maybe getting a bit hot or a bit uncomfortable, they'll go to the shade, and there they'll start regurgitating their food, pulling it up with special muscles to re-chew it. And that's called chewing the cud, or ruminating, if you want to use the specific term. And then they crush that food down even more and more and finer so that they can absorb the nutrients better. And they'll do that multiple times throughout the day until that food has been crushed properly. And then it gets excreted into this very fine, goopy substance that is all around us right now. Look at the tiny buffalo calf right in the middle there. Oliver, that buffalo calf is probably still drinking milk. It's very small, almost golden in color. I wonder if this is the herd with that golden-tailed female. Well, actually, using my binoculars to look at this male buffalo, he's got a phenomenal boss. I don't know if you're able to see him from where you are, but that boss on top of that buffalo's head is exceptionally thick. And that's what he'll use, along with those wicked sharp horns, to protect this group. So we're going to leave these buffaloes now settled as they are, getting more relaxed with us. We don't want to disturb them, so we'll move away. And in the meantime, whilst we extricate ourselves, we'll send you over to Rowan at Ngala.
Thanks, Mikey. Just to clarify, I'm not searching for lions anymore. They have been found. We are just not going to make our way there this morning. We'll rather pop in there this afternoon before any of the guests go out. Should be quite like it. It will give us a bit more time to spend with them. It'll be interesting to see how big those cubs are now. I'm surprised, although maybe they just haven't seen the other youngster, but there should be 6 youngsters in total rather than just 5. Although you just never know what happens. I mean, at a stage, there were 7. No, sorry, let me rephrase. Let me restart, actually. There were 5. 3 older ones, 2 younger ones. And then it seemed like the lionesses just adopted 2 random cubs from goodness knows where, maybe the breakaway pride. So then there were 7. And then 1 died somehow. Now and then it happens when the lionesses leave, they forget to take all their children with them, you know, as it goes. And so now we're down to 6 cubs. Actually quite nice. Now the thermals are starting to pick up, so to our left is the Timavati River, Morgan, so it's quite far. But some of the vultures are actually starting to go up. And this is what I was talking about yesterday, is they'll wait for hotter air so you can just glide. Morgan says there's a pole in the way. Always excuses with Morgan. Anyway, take my word for it. They are starting to thermal and circle back up. So this is good news for them. They can actually go look for carcasses and dead things to eat, carrion to feed on. So they enjoy the hotter weather just as much as we do. Keyword being hotter than yesterday. Not hot weather. Summertimes here get to a dreadful 45 degrees sometimes, and it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot cool down. All right, we are heading towards a watering hole known as Opi Dam. Take a look around there. I'm basically just showing Morgan around Ngala. But for now, I'll send you back over to Wade on Phinda.
welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. We've shifted around for a view of the other male lion, and look at him right here in front of us. He is equally impressive as his brother, and can you see how alert he is and quite intent, focused there. And if we zoom in on him a bit, look how he's got his head up, looking straight up ahead, and he's looking at the other lions at the moment. Look at that. You see right on the back of his head there, by the left ear, there's actually quite a gap where there's a bit of fur missing, and there's quite a noticeable wound. Look at that. Looks a little bit old, a couple of weeks at least, I'd say. Looks like he may have even got into a bit of a fight, maybe butted heads with his brother with some of the other mating. A few weeks ago we had seen this lion here mating with one of the lionesses from one of the other prides. So it may have been, with all this mating, there was a bit of back and forth, challenging. And now he's sitting here watching intently as his brother is with another lioness up on the ridge. We zoom up a bit, you can actually see there's that ridge up ahead. And that's where the other two lions are at the moment, so not far at all. There we can see quite clearly the lions laying down there. So it's really interesting to see how he's so intent on them. He's really interested, sitting here watching, but very reluctant to actually go over. As we got here, he sort of half raised himself up, and I thought maybe he might even move over there. But for now, he seems to be quite settled. It'll be really interesting to see what happens now, if he does decide to muster up the courage and go see what's happening that side. For now, not likely to. As we've seen all these scars on his face, look, that we can see that big nasty wound on the back of that head again. I wonder if we're in his near future he's going to have a few more run-ins. I'm sure they live a very hard life, but let's sit and watch them for a bit and see what happens.
So he's still just bumbling around, not too far from Oppie Dam now. It's known as Oppie Dam because quite a number of years ago they scattered ashes of Arthur Oppenheimer. So that's how it got its name. And then years ago we had a female here, which was known as Oppie female, so her territory centered around here. An Oppie female eventually got killed by Nsusu female, Rulani male, and his sister. Then Rulani male moved to our eastern boundary and was seen on Manyaleti a lot. Big leopard, massive male leopard. We have a guest that's got a photo of Nsusu female and the Rulani male when he was only 2 years old, and it looks like a jaguar next to a leopard in that photo, of course. And then Nsusu female died a couple of years ago, and well, now the new Zulu female, which was Rulani male's sister, she's still on the property. Quite a nice little line. Bizarre, I've never seen it happen where a female and youngsters would kill another female leopard just to take over territory. I mean, I can imagine it does happen, and so it did. But yeah, I just heard the story. That was before my time on Ngala. Quite a number of years ago. So far, no interesting tracks here either. Only a giraffe, but going that way. Yesterday, Morgan and I was tracking an ostrich for about 10 minutes? That was good fun. Now this morning we found another ostrich tracks. Something I haven't seen here in quite a long time. So a bizarre thing to see out in the wild. Just looks out of place.
Welcome back everyone to the Lions of andBeyond Phinda. Still here with myself and Glenn, and we've just been keeping an eye on this other male lion over here. He's still very unsure of what he wants to do. We see him pop his head up quite frequently, staring at his brother and the other lioness up on the wall, looking around. Just now he was distracted by a pair of Egyptian geese flying past, and the moment he lost interest in that, put his head right back down. But really interesting stuff that we've seen here this morning, having the lions call to each other and then moving around like this. Whoop, he's got his head up again. He's so... You can see he wants to go there. Look there, you can see. And his attention is focused directly on them. Oh, now as he looks to the side, now we can actually see a bit of his face. Massive, massive face, really covered in scars. And you can see that these lions really, really have to work hard for their territories. A lot of scars from the various fights, hunts. It's not an easy life being the king of the jungle, even though lions will spend most of their day doing exactly what we see here, just sort of laying around, up to 18 hours a day, sometimes even a bit more. Looking around a bit now, shifting. Even though they live such lazy lives, there is a lot of fighting and stress that goes into it. Look, now he's getting up. Look at the size of those shoulders. Let's see where he's going. He may be moving towards his brother. Moving through these grasses over here. And then there's a fairly prominent game path that leads directly towards that ridge. This is what we've been waiting for. Let's see what he does. And down. Either he's still warming up to the idea, or he's just playing games with us. But he's just laid down right there in the grass. And he may yet move again. I wonder if he's just changing position, or if he's slowly building up the courage to head over there and see what happens. Because like we discussed earlier, those two being sort of in the beginning stages of mating, that brother would likely chase this one off. Because he wouldn't want to give up the rights, because even though they are both dominant males, and even though they will both mate with any females that are in estrus in the region, they'll both feed on the carcasses, and that support and the partnership is incredibly important for their survival, because it is that bond and the sort of strength in numbers that allows them to survive. When it comes to mating and feeding, even though they are both the dominant males in this region, there's a very, very strict ranking between the two of them, and there's always one that is slightly more dominant than the other male. So he's the male that would get the first choice and the best bits of the carcass when they're eating, and when they're mating, he's always the first one to mate with the female. And in general, that male that was up there on the ridge. He is the more dominant of the two. But like I said, what's unique with these two is that it sometimes changes, and sometimes you see that this male over here is the one mating first, or chasing his brother off the carcass. So it's really interesting. We may try and move around here a little bit and try get another view of this male, but he's gone and laid directly in that long grass over there. I think it's going to be quite tough to see him. Amazing how that camouflage works, eh? Let's try shift around a bit. So we're just gonna do a bit of a loop there. I can just see him laying there. While we're looking for a better angle, it might be nice for you guys to take a little bit of a walk with Mike.
Just left those buffaloes. We haven't even traveled 200 meters, I don't think, and we found lion tracks, male lion tracks, very big male lion tracks heading that way. Looks like maybe even more than one. It's difficult to tell, but they're not very, very clear, which makes me think that maybe it was the early part of last night. The wind died down quite abruptly last night. So maybe just around the time when that wind was starting to stop, this lion was walking, because it is a little bit damaged. Not much, a little bit. And it was walking that way, which is basically towards the eco-training camp and the dam. I don't know, I think there have been other tracks found a bit closer to the dam, so it might be that those lions are somewhere close to our camp. Maybe we'll get a glimpse of them this afternoon. But it's interesting that they're walking away from this buffalo herd. As we saw, that buffalo herd was filled with youngsters, which would be ideal for these lions to catch. So I wonder if they just simply didn't know the buffaloes are there. Maybe they'll find those buffaloes' tracks at the dam and use their scent to follow them all the way back here to where we are. Because that would be an ideal thing for two male lions to hunt. So you can see the tracks go from there to there, another track there. In fact, it's definitely more than one lion because there's another track just over there. So there was two lions walking, I think. There. Yeah, plenty. Lots of other activity as well. There's hyenas, bird tracks, there's all sorts of stuff. So we're going to walk this road. It's getting late now in the morning, so we're actually making our way straight back towards the camp. We'll just walk on this road directly and we'll see what other tracks we can find. Maybe we start to find very fresh signs of these lions. Maybe we get so lucky and actually find the lions. Wouldn't that be a thing? 2 big 5 encounters in one morning would be really great. It's not always possible. But the more I walk, actually, the more I see these tracks are degraded, so it might have been earlier than that, because even here I can't see the tracks at all. It's completely gone. So perhaps it is during the wind. Perhaps these ones were just strangely sheltered. I'm not sure. The wind has died down for today, but they're expecting that tomorrow and on Friday and Saturday that it'll become very, very windy once again. Hopefully it doesn't disrupt us too much. Candice, that is a great question. And the lion population on Pridelands is not static or stable. Well, it's stable at the moment, but it can change. I believe that there is a pride of about 5 lionesses. They had 11 youngsters. And there's these 2 males, and then there's 2 other males which are new to the area. They might be sub-adults or young males that we had seen when we were first here, that left for a couple of years and have come back now. Not really sure. But yeah, I'd say the population of lions is probably close to 20 or maybe even slightly more than 20 that we're seeing on a regular basis on the area of Pridelands and the surrounding traverse area. So when you couple that with the fact that we're seeing, I think we've identified about 8 different leopards, as well as the whole clan of hyenas, which is about 13 to 15 strong, there's an incredible amount of predator activity. We even see painted wolves or wild dogs every now and again, and a pair of cheetahs seems to pass through here on a semi-regular basis. So the predator activity on Pridelands is really quite extensive. And it's because of the water. It's because of the water we have, meaning that there's game around and therefore food. Yeah, we're very fortunate. Candace, come and join us here. Love to show you around. Maybe on the next competition. On the WildEarth Explorers page, which, by the way, you should definitely check out if you're not a WildEarth Explorer at the moment. I think it's a very cool thing to do. You can also send your questions in. You can have them answered by any one of us live on the show. So while we walk down this road, I'm going to send you back to Wade at Phinda. Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. We've decided to let the lions have their rest. After we saw that big male lion, he went and lay down there in that long grass and showed no signs of moving at all. We've had such a wonderful sighting with them, both that male lion and the lion and lioness up on the ridge. So we thought, let's take a bit of a drive around and see what else we can find. As I'm heading up here through this grassland, we've got some buffalo tracks and dung across the road. It may have been that they moved through here maybe sometime last night. A lot of the dung was relatively fresh. But as we're heading along here, I want to head up to one of the bigger water holes nearby. Some of the guys had seen some cheetah in that area. So it's worth taking a drive over there and seeing what comes up. But as we're driving along here, just taking in the view, it's quite an amazing thing. I mean, look at these, the start of the woodlands here on the left-hand side, but huge open grassland here on our right. It really is a wonderful area. Where we were this morning, we were looking up this way, and when we had first heard the lions roaring, it was from this area. So we had seen just on our right-hand side the lions on the ridge, which is not far from here. You'll see there, right at the edge of what we can see here, that's where those lions are on that ridge. The other male lion had been out here and walked towards them, and that lioness with the cubs was somewhere around here. So that lioness had apparently cut up around our left-hand side into this thicket, and unlikely that she'll come out anytime soon, but we're going to keep heading towards that area and see if we can find some cheetah.
The Wildlife and Environment Society of South Africa, WESA, encourages people to care for the earth. Through innovative projects, they aim to reverse the serious issues that we face in the world today. One of these projects is Green Coast, a proudly South African award for sensitive and well-managed coastal sites. This sustainability project protects our national coastlines while providing unemployed youth with a love for their environment and a hope for the future. WESA is a membership and volunteer-supported organisation. Every supporter is helping to change the only earth we have. Visit our website to see how you can help care for our earth.
We're here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Competitors are now doing the Hades halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim, and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back to andBeyond Phinda. You are with myself, Wade and Glenn, and we've just moved into a new area trying to see if we can find some cheetah. One of the other vehicles out this morning saw them around here, and it's been quite a while since anyone was with them, but we thought we would come out and give it a bash. Really, really beautiful area. There's a little water hole on our right-hand side. And these cheetah that we're looking for this morning are the same cheetah we had yesterday afternoon, the two males that are the dominant force in this region, much like the two lions we just saw. And they had moved quite a bit from where we saw them, so they must have moved probably during the night or early this morning, because where we had the lions now, those lions had essentially walked straight through there where the cheetah were last night, which is quite something. And that's why that spot where the cheetah were was so ideal, because they had a good view around them, but they were perfectly hidden. So the moment the lions had come through, they could have just jumped up and scuttled off away from them to keep safe. And once they left there, they came a bit further north, and they were seen out here, somewhere on our right-hand side. So right now, we are going to just be looping around the area, trying to see if we can spot some sign of them, maybe some tracks on the road. It's really, really hard soil here. But maybe, just like the lions, they might still be sunning themselves on a mound somewhere. Such a beautiful morning though. It's warmed up really nicely now. We have a question from Leopard Lover, if we've seen animals that aren't known to the area. Well, it does happen, not too often. Obviously, Phinda being a fenced-off reserve means a lot of the big animals can't get through. So typically you won't see things like that coming through. One aspect where we do often get it, and more these days, is birds. We have an incredible bird life here, and with the good rains we've had this season, we've seen record numbers of birds that we don't normally get. Our last rainy season now, earlier this year, was really good for birding, and birds which were originally not even found in this region at all, we're getting more and more records of seeing them, which is a really amazing thing. But in terms of the other animals, it doesn't happen too often. A lot of the smaller animals can go under the fences, and things like leopard will jump over and move between areas. But no, we don't get that too much here. And all the animals that have been introduced to Phinda, because historically, just over 30 years ago, this was all farmland. Much of what we've been driving through now was either crops, pineapple, cotton, sisal, cattle farms. So this has all been rehabilitated to the wildlife that we see now. And as they've reintroduced the animals over the years, our habitat team has been very careful to only introduce animals that were historically found here, and not introduce other animals sort of just for viewing pleasure. It's all about restoring the habitat to what it was previously. As we're driving along here, we don't know exactly where those cheetah were, and it was quite a while ago, so they could have moved a fair bit since then, which is why as we're driving around here, we're doing a bit of a loop around where they were last reported to be seen, and hopefully we can catch sign of them moving somewhere. But while we're off searching here, maybe worth seeing what's going on at Pridelands.
Sorry, I was just checking the map to see exactly how far we are from camp. We've walked the wrong way. we basically walked the wrong direction. It's what happens when there's clouds like this, you see. You kind of get a bit disoriented. Also, we're having good conversations. It's been a great morning. But what we can see here is actually a really great potential for us to do some tracking. So I don't know if you can see this track over here. It's not exceptionally clear. However, there are certain aspects of it that are really clear. For example, the strangely shaped toe over there and over there, plus the claw marks, and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 claws. Tell me, everyone at home, or anyone at home, what animal would have claws, a fairly big track, with these irregularly shaped toes? Do you have any idea? That is question number 1. Okay, this is how we do a field ops. Question number 1. Question number 2 is this track here. Much, much smaller than the original track, just a little bit bigger than a thumb, very small back pad, and toes in a shape that almost looks like a Christmas tree, if you'd imagine that this is the pot and these are the branches going up like that. Question number 2. What animal made that track? Okay. In fact, I'll make it even easier for you, those of you who've been paying attention, if you've been watching for a while. If I would take a stick like this one, I can actually put one piece of grass there and another piece of grass just there, and the 2 front toes, the 2 side toes, and the back pad are all perfectly separated. Jake, I think you said that this first one was a spotted hyena, and you are 100% correct. That is indeed a spotted hyena track with these irregularly shaped toes, 4 claws, and a big pad. So here's a better, more clear track. Same animal, took 1 extra step and stepped on much nicer soil. So there you can really see that irregular back pad and the strangely shaped toes with the claws. So now anyone wants to have a go at this track here? Very narrow, small back pad, not big like a hyena. Very nice oval-shaped toes. Does also have claw marks, but they're not clear on this particular track because the soil is just a bit harder, a bit more firm. Don't be shy now. No guesses are bad guesses. We will give you a little bit of time to think about that one because we're going to send you over to Tswalu, who's on the coast at Cape Town. How cool is that?
Town, you have a beautiful, beautiful view here. Did I ever tell you, I think you might have gathered, how excited I am to be here? Because there's the mountains, there's this beautiful forest out here, and then we're also, as you can see, standing on some rocks, the sun behind us. Oh, it's wonderful. But you know me, it's me, Tswalu. I've got Jandre on camera with me, and here we are. Can you hear the ocean? Just beautiful. All right, so we have a lot to discuss here at the moment. There's so much going on. It may seem that there isn't too much happening. There's, you know, a whole lot of rock. In fact, I want to talk about this rock for a little bit, if you don't mind. So the last time that we're in Cozy Bay, which is the same place that we were in the other night. Was it not yesterday evening, the evening before? And, oh, let me do this, will not fall in front of all of you. There we go. I spoke about this and I said it looked as if these boulders had cascaded down from the mountains, but in fact not at all. They're a completely different type of stone, or a completely different type of geological feature. These are actually granite intrusions, and these have been weathered by the ocean and all of that to be exposed. So it's not the same type of geology as you would get up in the mountain where there's mostly sandstone. Just an interesting thing, because it does look like these huge rounded boulders would have, you know, fallen from the top, but in fact they haven't. The reason that they're round like this is because of the constant erosion from the water. Cool, right? So much to learn, so much to learn. Well, anyway, in the intertidal zone, which is where we are at the moment, where along the rocks here, along these granite intrusions, or what once were granite intrusions, and we're looking into the little kind of rock pools. So at first when we walk here, we think there's not much going on at all, but in fact there is a lot going on. We have limpets, quite a few of them, and we have an anemone right there. But anyway, we'll talk about these smaller things in a bit, but let's just introduce what we can see this morning anyway. All the way out there, you're going to see some cormorants as well as some seals. Sorry guys, you're just gonna have to watch that for a moment while I navigate these rocks. I unfortunately left FC all the way on the other side, and then I realized I wouldn't be able to hear them. So we have our Cape fur seals there, as well as our cormorants. There's an array of gulls that are around as well, and you'd also be able to see, I suppose, some of the fronds of the kelp just out there. So the Cape fur seals are one of the largest seals that you're going to find. Males are pretty big. They can get up to about 300 kgs. Females, about half that size. And they congregate on rocks like that for the evening, and then they soak up the sun before they go off and feed on fish and crustaceans, krill even, although they're definitely after the bigger things. Some seals, not these ones particularly, but like a leopard seal has even been recorded eating sharks. So though they may look nice and cuddly, they're still predators, they're still carnivores. Anyway, we'll chat more about that in a bit. I am going to send you somewhere. I'm sorry, I didn't hear FC too well.
the Endangered Wildlife Trust fights at the forefront of conservation, across the vast Karoo and sweeping grasslands, in remote pockets of forest, along road networks, across African skies, and in communities to conserve our wildlife and wild spaces. Help us to protect forever, together. Donate now at ewt.org.za.
We got there. He had probably moved a couple of hundred meters down the river and was about 10 meters from this causeway. So I radioed the lodge quickly and just asked them to bring a land cruiser around and some tow straps. So we thought we were going to try be heroes and save this giraffe. And now a big bull, probably over a ton. He's a big unit. Got the tow strap one side of the giraffe and managed to get it around him with the boat, and the other edge of the tow strap obviously back onto the bank. So we made this U around him because he was lying quite close to the bank. And we put that land cruise in low range and we just gave it hell and pulled that giraffe, and the tow strap slipped up and we thought, oh no, it's going to slip off the top of the head, and it caught on his ossicone's top. And that last 10 meters pulled him out onto the bank, and he battled. He was obviously quite weak and all that.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
The bushwalk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
We would like to continue the quiz that we were doing a moment ago with question number 2's track. And I had a nice track, and then Gert assured me that he would be able to... here we go. Okay, over here. I don't know how easy it is on camera, unfortunately, with the light the way it is, but actually it's probably pretty much impossible. Okay, so over here is the track. This is the good one. Okay, so you can see once again that we're far from where we were, so it's maybe a different animal, but same species. There's the back pad, small little triangle. There's a toe there, and 2 toes in the front here. And this animal is quite interesting. It has 2 speeds, in my opinion. It has trot, or it has flat out run. Never really see this animal doing anything else. Hardly ever seen this particular animal just walking along and having a great time. It either trots or it runs. Okay, and the animal in question is probably around about this long. Let me show you. So here's 2 tracks there. Okay, there's another track, and there's 2 tracks there. So you see 2, you skip 2, and you see 2 again. So this animal was, roughly speaking, this long in its body. Okay, what do you think? Chris, that is a nice guess, and I certainly wish it was an aardvark, but it's not. An aardvark, first of all, is much bigger than this, and secondly, an aardvark's track is much larger as well. This animal that we're seeing here, I think probably weighs less... Oh, I put my knee right on a rock. That was very uncomfortable. Probably weighs less than 10 kilos. I'm not really sure. I'll have to double check it, to be honest, but it's very light, whereas an aardvark can weigh over 60 kilos, which is incredible in the size. This animal that I'm pointing out here, I'm going to give you a big hint here, is probably around the size of a medium to smallish dog, whereas an aardvark is much bigger. It's like a mastiff, like huge dog size, like a St. Bernard. Okay, so it's this one here. If you add the tail, let's say the tail is like that, and if you add the head is like this. Okay, so keep guessing, keep coming up with those guesses. Small tracks, big toes, claws, relatively small animal, sometimes in pairs. Tammy, that's much closer. Well, I wouldn't say it's much closer, but it's definitely closer in size. A genet has very small tracks. In fact, this is a genet over here. There are genet tracks just over here. There's a whole cluster of genet tracks, about half the size of the track that we see over here. Okay, about half the size. A genet is simply purely nocturnal and it's a solitary animal, whereas this animal whose tracks I would like you to identify is in pairs. Glenn, you're getting very close now. Size-wise, much closer with civet. It's still not a civet though. A civet's also a solitary animal and strictly nocturnal, whereas this animal whose tracks we've seen is an animal that occurs in pairs and can be crepuscular, being mostly active in the evening and in the morning. And it has an incredible call, a very mournful, long call. It goes, "Meow, meow." Mike, you're getting closer. A honey badger is even larger than a civet, but far more aggressive than this particular animal. Honey badgers have been known to, well, there's a story of a honey badger killing a buffalo. And I don't know how true that story is, but certainly potentially true. A jackal almost certainly would... Oh! Oh, he's given the game away, hasn't he? I got so involved in the story of this animal that I said the track. Let's see who was listening. Let's see who was listening and heard me just give away the name of that animal. Hopefully not. Oh, there's a vehicle coming. I'm just going to have to give them a very aggressive hands up to say, we're busy here. I think they're getting our... No, they're not paying attention whatsoever. But it's anyway, it's fine. This is we're just going to use this as our Uber service. So we'll see how who's been paying attention. Thank you so much. So no one heard me. Excellent. Well, we're going to send you over to Tshala in the meantime whilst you decipher what animal's track this could be. And we'll get back to you soon.
What beautiful scenery, don't you think so? I certainly know that Elizabeth thinks so. Elizabeth says, wow, absolutely stunning, such beautiful scenery. Well, we're still here and we have a couple questions about the seals, I guess. What's interesting is that I mentioned to you the leopard seal and we were comparing the way that their diets are a little bit different because obviously they're a larger seal, but they're not a type of seal that we see often here. But recently in Komiki, which is not terribly far from here, there was a leopard seal a couple weeks back, yeah. I think it was a female. She was quite small, but she's probably not fully grown. But she was there in Komiki, and then Jandre actually told me that there have been an elephant seal, at least, that's been around called Buffles. Did you name him Jandre? No. Sounds like a name Jandre would have named him. Well, we have a couple questions about the seals, or at least one question about the seals. It was Horse Lover. Horse Lover would like to know how many seals can there be in a colony. Horse Lover, many. There can be colonies of thousands. Here we don't have a colony of thousands, but they could easily at some point, especially in the night when they all come and congregate on these rocks, there could be hundreds. But it's less likely to find thousands up here. There could be thousands in Namibia in colonies. There can be thousands in Namakwa. But out here, in fact, the Cape fur seal population is on the rise. It's a bit of a success story around here. So that's pretty cool. So the way it works is at the moment when they're not breeding, but their breeding will start soon, they very happily congregate together like this. But once they start breeding, the males need to establish territories, and then you'll find them fighting, or at least displaying to each other. Sometimes they will actually, touch each other and be very aggressive to each other. They can occasionally kill each other. And then the females will also need to establish territories. Their territories will always be within the territories of a male. And they need to establish, the females need to establish territories because they need space to bring up their pups. And their pups are usually born after about gestation period of just under a year. And then they take about 3 to 4 months to be weaned. So seals have a really very nutrient-rich milk. So they don't wean their offspring they don't suckle their offspring for a very, very long time. I'm sure you know, maybe I'll quiz you, which animal has the highest fat in their milk? Which mammal has the most fat in their milk? Hashtag WildEarth, let me know. If you had been listening to me the last however long, you should know. But I probably gave you a clue already. Really beautiful to be able to include them in our show. In fact, that is what James said, I think. James says, so neat to see seals on drive. Isn't it just very, very neat? There were also quite a lot of cormorants around, I promise you. They still are somewhere on those rocks. Also congregating around there. I want to bring your attention to one of the smaller things, if you don't mind. I know it's wonderful to see the seals. Hopefully we'll be able to get an area or sometime when they're a little bit closer and spend more time with them. But I wanted to bring your attention to a little crab that we found down here. There's so much happening, so much to look at. I hope it's still here. There we go. I'm not sure if that crab is alive right now, but obviously I'm not going to touch it unless I know that it's dead. And that's not because I'm scared that I'm going to get pinched by it, anything like that. It's because I don't want to disturb the environment. We all know that. We don't ever want to do something like that. Now, there's actually an interesting interaction going on here. I think this crab is dead, and I'll tell you why. There are tiny, tiny little snails. One is crawling onto the crab right now about there. Just there. Oh, did the crab just move into the... And there's another snail that's trying to get onto it from this little bit here. Let's watch for a little while, because a lot of the time being in the ocean means that being a scavenger is something that most animals have to do. And lots of animals and lots of snails do scavenge. So it could be possible that this crab is dead and these snails are going after it. That's very, very cool, because it's interesting to watch interactions. Often we don't see interactions. Often we think we're not going to see interactions in the ocean or with these small things because they move so slowly. Anyway, I had an answer to my question. Glenn said a sea otter. No, it's not. Let me just tell you. It's a hooded seal with about 60 to 70% fat in their milk. So it kind of comes out like condensed milk. Can you imagine that? Well, you need all that fat if you're living out in the icy areas, don't you? Anyway, guys, it's time to say goodbye and say thank you so much for joining us across all our locations in South Africa and introducing the wild too, and of course right here in Cape Town too. Bye for now.